gummy bear.
It's the internet. You're busy. Let's do this for May 11th, 2023 for the next hour or so. Let me help you sort through the world of gaming on Game S Mornings Live with me, Jeff Grubb. Today, some new game is out. I think it's called Zelda. But first, please join me in welcoming today's co-host to Game S Mornings. It's Jan Ochoa, everybody. Jan, how are you doing?
I am doing poorly. You know why, Grubb?
No, tell me why.
I need everyone to throw some fives in the chat, in the comments. I need either the number 4 or 5, because I need you to lend your power to my partner so she can finish strong in her master's program.
Yeah,
look at the fives.
Let's fucking
look
go.
At the fives. Look at him go. Look at him go.
Let's go.
They're cheering you on.
Yeah.
Grubb is yelling at the top of his lungs. His child just suplexed the Kirby.
Yeah, there she goes.
All right. She's feeling a little down, but we got this. We
got those 5s in chat. I believe in her.
There we go.
I believe in her. 100%.
There we go. We got a couple 69s too, so nice.
All right. Very good, everybody. Very good. Jan, how you doing? I haven't seen you in a couple days.
I got a whole row to myself on the flight back,
that's
so
nice.
I'm doing fantastic.
That's fantastic. So the traveling, the jet setting was, did it agree with you? Did you get back and you felt all right and everything?
I have zero idea what time zone I'm in. So.
Sure. Yeah. Day of the week is like pretty rough still for me, but we're getting there. I did remember Jan today, so Thursday, here we are. But it did take like a conscious effort of like really thinking about it. What is happening today? There is a lot happening today, but mostly, I mean, I keep looking like midnight for me for Zelda. I'm probably gonna try to not play it tonight because we'll just play it fresh on stream tomorrow, and that's the plan. But I kind of am only thinking about Zelda right now, Jan. That's what's happening in my life.
Yeah. I see people online saying that they put hundreds of hours in, and I'm like, wow. What's it like to live on that side of the universe?
Yes, it's different. It's different out there for them. All right, we got to get into this mess, but before we do, let's explain what we do here. Most weekdays, I, Jeff Grubb, will help piece your gaming life back together. That includes breaking news and maybe even some of our own original reporting. For all these topics, I'll get the input of a bona fide expert who will make me look smart. If you are watching live on Twitch, welcome. You can always listen to the show later on podcast feeds by searching for Game S Mornings or find the RSS on giantbomb.com. You can also catch the show later with chapters and timestamps on YouTube. Hello, YouTube. Okay, we have a lot to get into, so let's start the morning mess with Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is the highest rated game ever on OpenCritic. This comes from Andy Robinson at VGC. The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is currently the highest rated game of all time on review aggregation site OpenCritic. Press reviews for the long-awaited sequel went live on Thursday, ahead of the game's release tomorrow on Friday, and verdicts were overwhelmingly positive, with the majority of outlets awarding it a perfect score. Shortly after the embargo lifted, review aggregation site OpenCritic confirmed that the game is currently the highest rated game of all time on its platform with an aggregate score of 97.223. According to the platform, it's also ahead by a significant margin with Super Mario Odyssey in second place at 96.81 and its predecessor, Breath of the Wild, in third at 95.9. So that's a big number. We'll do some of the review roundup here in a second, but that's very, very glowingly positive. I was not expecting that, Jen. I was expecting high review scores. It's a Zelda game. I was expecting better than Breath of the Wild scores.
This is me perhaps playing devil's advocate. Do you think this is because of the outlets that were provided review code?
That's always a consideration, yeah.
Yeah. I'm not saying that Nintendo is paying off anyone.
No.
Sure.
No, but I mean, every company thinks about who they're handing codes to. I think it's more likely what happens is this is the kind of game, especially the sequel to Breath of the Wild, where who is going to raise their hand to review this hundreds of hours long game or a game that you can't put hundreds of hours into? It's going to be the kind of people that tend to drift towards these games anyhow. So there's going to be some selection bias for sure. I think those people being overwhelmingly won over by the game is still a very good sign, but I'm with you. Like, there's going to be a time where we're going to be, 2 weeks out, and there's going to be the other people that are like, well, listen, I didn't like Breath of the Wild. I want to see this for myself. It's the highest rated game ever on OpenCritic, and it's like one of the highest rated games on Metacritic as well. I'm going to go check it out too. I mean, let's see. And I think we'll hear some people like, this is a game that still doesn't mesh with me for this reason and for this reason. For now, though, we are in that what was always going to be a honeymoon period, right?
Yeah, the thing I fear is that a week, 2 weeks from now, when other outlets get the chance to review the game, there may be an outlet that just is a little shit and just wants to be a contrarian just to be a contrarian.
Well, I think that the thing is, it's like it's significantly ahead of 97.223 is pretty far ahead of 96.81 Super Mario Odyssey, but I suppose it could drop down. I think this game's going to have a lot of reviews. And you saw those like the roundup tweets going around of all the scores from all the sites, and it was 10, 10, 10, 10, 5 out of 5, out of 5, 5 stars. And there was a few, like Eurogamer gave it a 4 out of 5, and the review was pretty good. So I think it's like not 100% hit rate, but it's really close.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for like Nintendo Mafioso Cannoli Crew to like review it and give it like a 1 out of 5 because of the lack of food options or something.
Well, listen, I think they're onto something. I need those food options now. I've been to New Jersey. I've seen the good life. There's also the industry's other big review aggregation platform, Metacritic, also started collating reviews shortly after the media embargo lifted. And at the time of publishing, Tears of the Kingdom is by far its highest rated game of the year with a score of 97. It's also the highest rated Nintendo Switch game of all time on Metacritic, and the site's highest rated new game since Red Dead Redemption 2 in 2018, which also ranked at a 97. Only The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time at a 99, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 at a 98, Grand Theft Auto 4 at 98, and Soul Calibur at 98 are ranked higher on Metacritic than Tears of the Kingdom. I think it's probably a 98, 99 is probably never going to happen again. Games are too big. There's too much going on. There's always going to be something that's not going to be up to snuff. Whereas Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 is just this crystallized, perfect formation of a video game that fit really well into that time. That's going to be really hard to replicate, right?
Yeah. When I'm thinking of like a 99 to a 98 style game, seeing Tony Hawk and Soul Calibur, it's like, that fits.
That's what those games are. Exactly. I mean, you're going to say, okay, this game is right behind Ocarina of Time, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2, Grand Theft Auto 4, Soul Calibur. I mean, okay, you're one of those games? Oh, okay, that says a lot immediately. I can't wait. It's been fun already to see many of the reviewers and critics posting a little bit of tidbits here and there, some clips and things like that. And I know Gene was doing a Twitter group, whatever the hell they call their little thing where people get online and talk. And it was like, they're answering questions. It seems like there is so much more to this game than we even realize. I know that the Nintendo this week was also like spilling some of those details. I think I'm going to spare people most of that stuff because you're going to be playing it soon. So you can just see for yourself.
Yeah, It's one of those instances where it's like, oh wow, we get to live through this. This is cool.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Hey, I was there for that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm excited. It feels like a moment. It is kind of incredible that it's able to live up to Breath of the Wild. And that seems to be most of the sentiment from the reviewers. According to this roundup, Zelda Tears of the Kingdom review roundup, one of the best Zelda games ever made is what many review critics are saying. This comes from Tom Ivan at VGC. VGC gave it a 5 out of 5. They said The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom reinterprets Breath of the Wild for the better. Instead of removing all the aches and pains of that game, it completes the circle by adding gameplay-based solutions to annoyances and encourages you to let your imagination run free. I think that is the thing that I was like, that does make sense for what this game could be. There was things that bothered people about the previous one. So instead of removing them and running away from them, use the Breath of the Wild mentality of get creative to solutions to present more solutions to the player. And it's, they just did that over and over and over again for everything in this game. Eurogamer gave it a 4 out of 5. A terrific Breath of the Wild follow-up with some brilliant new systems, amazing views, and more dungeon-type spaces, plus a slightly deadening emphasis on gathering resources. I think the gathering resources is something that definitely happened in the first game, but I think you have to be thinking about it a little bit more here. And that's, I could see that getting tiresome after 120 hours or whatever. I think I played Breath of the Wild for 150 hours. So anything you're going to be doing for that long, it's got to be good the entire time, right?
Yeah, based off of like the preview that we did and like the footage and like the bits we saw Baclar and Dan go through, I wonder if those resources are more so like the Zonai parts, like the little different components, more so than like weapon degradation or having to balance that. And it seems like you can just cook food anywhere now, which is nice versus having to go back to a town. But I wonder if like the resource management is to a lesser extent than we're led to believe as of right now.
Yes. Let's see. Polygon gave it a recommend. They said the brilliance of Tears of the Kingdom lies in how well it imparts the fantasy of player freedom. Sure, Nintendo shakes me out of the daydream every now and then, and in those moments, I see flashes of its old rigid self. But no matter, at some point, I fully escape its watchful gaze. Metro gave it 5 out of 5. Pocket Land 5 out of 5. It's tens. There's WCCF Tech gives it a 4.5 out of 5. It says any concerns that Tears of the Kingdom is merely Breath of the Wild DLC is misplaced, as Nintendo is offering multiple full AAA games worth of new things to do. There are easily hundreds of hours of content for those who want to explore every nook and cranny of the revamped Hyrule. I'm just not sure everyone's going to have the stamina reserves for another full tour. I think is that a concern for you at all? Like, it is still the same map underneath, even if they added all these layers of new things. Do you think you're going to go in there and like this is going to be a game you beat after like 80 hours or something like that, or is like you're going to go in and play around with it for a bit?
I think I'll do what I did with Breath of the Wild and just take my time and play around, especially if there's more tools to play around. Like, I didn't get to the fish people in Breath of the Wild until maybe 30, 40 hours, just because I was just poking around so much and just pushing the limits of where Link was able to go at the time, given my tools and whatnot. I feel like I've had open world fatigue, and not that enough time has passed since. But I feel like with some open world games, you're just hampered a lot with like their existing tool set that it doesn't even feel open and it just feels like a chore. It seems like Tears of the Kingdom will be different in a way that like, okay, it's open, it's huge, but you can just literally do whatever, like Death Stranding.
Yes. I'm curious to see like what fundamental changes they make. I mean, people are suggesting, hey, dungeons are here and stuff like that. But can you beat the game immediately? Like you could in Breath of the Wild? I expect probably not. That seems like something that's like, well, Breath of the Wild is that game, and there's still going to be a ton of openness here, but we do have those dungeons, and maybe you should go see those, and people want that, and we have the other game available for you still. I think they can, because Breath of the Wild and this do share that common DNA. I feel like they can make they don't have to like be, oh, the next game has to be exactly like Breath of the Wild but a new place. No, it could be like exactly like Breath of the Wild in terms of it has those structures of bones of where you're going, but instead like let's make some other changes to give people a new ways to feel pressure about how they're going to be creative. And this seems like that's exactly where they went. Very excited. The other good news, Zelda Tears of the Kingdom tech analysis includes frame rate and resolution information, and it seems mostly positive. This comes from Nintendo Everything via Digital Foundry. Digital Foundry just published a new technical analysis for The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, touching on aspects such as frame rate and resolution. The outlet also went over improvements compared to Breath of the Wild. The full rundown is pretty lengthy. There's volumetric lighting and light scatter that's back from Breath of the Wild, things like that. The headline stuff here is that the docked version targets 900p, and it usually gets around 30 frames per second. Nintendo seems to be using AMD's Fidelity FX Super Resolution, and that is used to reach 1080p. So that's how they're upscaling it to 1080, not to 900. The image is slightly sharper than Breath of the Wild, while there's a subtle edge ringing to everything, which is like one of those artifacts that does happen with something like FSR, especially FSR 1, which is what this game is using. The max resolution in portable mode is 720p. Some of the main cutscenes render out at a low bitrate video file, which you can imagine they're trying to save some space on there. The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom frame rate does hold very closely to 30 frames per second. It's not 100% perfect. Ultra Hand is when the frame rate can drop. And of course, Kakariko Village is where performance can be an issue, just like the last game. So I think the story here in terms of performance and visual quality, Jan, is that this game was not also being made for the Wii U. They were a little bit more freed up to build something specifically for the Switch, and it sounds like they did that.
Yeah, Nintendo knows how to use their toys better than anyone, and I guess now that they're focused, because I 100% forgot that Breath of the Wild is out on the Wii U.
It's easy to forget that, yeah.
I completely forget about the Wii U as well sometimes. But like, yeah, I mean, hey, if I trust anyone at Nintendo, it's Nintendo.
Me too. And it's like I was always feeling it was going to go in this direction of they're gonna get it there for the most part. Yeah, I bet it's still gonna have some more performance issues than you would imagine from previous generations of Zelda games or Mario games, but they're gonna mostly get it there. And it sounds like that's exactly what happened. The Digital Foundry takeaway is basically that yeah, there's some issues here and there, but mostly this is a very, very good example of how to make a Switch game, especially one that's so vast and so big and has so much stuff going on. They said that things like shadow calling improved. The level of detail distance seems to have been slightly expanded, things like that. So overall, it's just going to look like a better game than Breath of the Wild. Meanwhile, Zelda OLED boosted UK Switch sales in April. PS5 was still the top-selling console, though. This comes from Chris Scullion at VGC. Nintendo Switch sales in the UK rose in April, driven by the launch of the Zelda Tears of the Kingdom Special Edition Switch OLED in the last week of the month. Switch sales were up 26% compared to those in March and up 30% compared to those in April 2022, so year over year. And that's according to GfK figures published on GamesIndustry.biz. Despite this boost in Switch sales, PS5 was still the best-selling console in the UK in April. That's not to say that it was a particularly strong month for any system, however. Despite coming out on top, PS5 sales in April were still down 35% compared to March, although they were up 15% year over year. Similarly, Xbox X and S sales in April were down 32% compared to March, but up 8% year over year. Overall, just under 111,000 copies or consoles were sold in the UK in April, which was down 20% on March, but up 20% year over year. I don't get why they make such a big deal about the month to month, because it's always these things are seasonal. These things do go year to year. So everything being up year over year is actually a pretty good sign, because like people just typically don't buy a lot of consoles in April, so that's not too surprising. But hey, 26% up. This was leads into a little bit about the conversations we were having on Tuesday on the Bombcast, where Nintendo was like, "Hey, we're going to be trying to sell a lot of Switches this year. Still, probably only about 15 million. It's going to be a slower year." It does seem like this hardware is going to help a little bit, right?
Yeah. I don't think I was factoring in how much of a boost like this Zelda OLED would do to Nintendo's numbers, but if it's already doing this much, I can definitely see them hitting the goal. And after this review roundup and the game is actually out, and seeing how well reviewed and how positive it is, people are going to want to swoop it up. I feel like every household in America has a Switch, but maybe they'll get their fifth one.
Yeah, maybe. And if you're someone that has a fond memory of playing that Zelda Breath of the Wild on new hardware, and now that new hardware is what you've been using this entire time, and it's starting to feel pretty old, well, that Switch Zelda OLED does look good, and that screen is gorgeous. It's like, well, maybe I want to experience this the best way possible. And it's not like it's going to make a difference to the way the game plays, but it's easy to talk yourself into be like, that OLED screen will make a difference, and that's how I want to play it. And my old Switch is loud, and the fan sounds like it's dying. There's a lot of reasons why people will talk themselves into that. I don't think this is going to be the one big thing that's going to push them to 15 million consoles sold, but it's definitely going to help get them there, I think. And this game is big enough to drive hardware sales in a market that is mostly already saturated, like you said.
Do you think the average consumer has the concerns of a Switch 2 in the front of their mind, or do you think to like your regular family looking out for the holidays or for birthdays is thinking like, oh, well, we'll just get them a Switch because Betsy has a Switch, but Gerald doesn't?
I think that's a good point, right? Because are they thinking, should I hold off because there's Switch 2 coming? I bet most people are not necessarily thinking that way. But I bet some significant percentage probably is. But for the most part, I think they are like, no, we need something now. The new Zelda's here. This is the new system. It's got the Zelda game on it. Like, it has the artwork right there on it. Why wouldn't we get that? I think that's how most people are going to think. But as you said earlier, those people also probably already have 4 Switches. So they're not necessarily also thinking we need to be out there looking for the newest one or anything like that.
Because this is the dumbest thing. And the last thing I'll say about like families acquiring new Switches. I wonder if the naming convention of the Nintendo Switch factors in at all, because it is not a numbered system. So people are not thinking of like, oh, well, we have a PS5. I had a PS4. I'll eventually get a PS6. But with a Nintendo Switch, it's like, all right, it's just going to be the Switch.
Yeah, I think that's definitely part of it. I think that's always helped them out with like the 3DS. I mean, they've got the new 3DS and stuff like that. Not numbered, but also clearly something that's trying to delineate itself from the previous models. But I think people do buy a lot of these handhelds because I think they get a little bit more mileage on them because you're not picking up and handling a home console all that much, but like picking up and handling a handheld does wear it down a little bit faster. But also they tend to get updated faster in terms of, oh, cool artwork on this one. And this is almost a fashion accessory. It is something I might be taking with me. I want it to look a certain way. So I think people buy them pretty frequently, and that's just I think it's something that people were already they lean towards with these things. But yeah, so that's where the thinking of that comes in, and not necessarily like you said, like they're not thinking, oh, I gotta wait for the next big number here. It's more like an iPhone or an iPad. Sharp is making LCD displays for a, quote, new console as Switch successor speculation begins to mount. This comes from Tom Ivan at VGC. Sharp has announced that it's making LCD displays for a new gaming console as speculation mounts about the Nintendo Switch successor. In an earnings call on Thursday, Sharp CEO Robert Wu said the Japanese electronics company will launch pilot LCD panel production lines for the new device during its current fiscal year ending in March 2024. He was quoted as saying, "I can't comment on any details regarding specific customers, but as to a new gaming console, we've been involved in its R&D stage," he told analysts via Bloomberg. Sharp has a long history of working with Nintendo, including providing LCD displays for DS consoles and acting as a Switch assembler. Nintendo has yet to officially announce a successor to Switch, which has entered its 7th year on the market in March, but speculation is mounting that it intends to launch new hardware next fiscal year. That timing all sounds right to me, Jan, where like, hey, we got a system that's probably coming out next year, not before March, at least according to some reports and the way Nintendo's talking about it. But they got to get things ready. They have to have things ready to go, and that includes LCD displays are going to be very important there. I hope LCD. I can't remember, like, this LCD, are OLED screens LCDs with OLED? I don't think so. I think they're different, right? So
yeah,
I hope we're getting OLED out of the box for this next one. What do you think?
Yeah, that was my main concern when I see LCD versus OLED, because I feel like they always make the distinction. It would seem like a very odd move to go back to LCD versus OLED. It's not OLED. Okay, that's what folks are saying.
Yeah,
Sharp makes OLED, by the way. Okay,
they do. I think they make the OLED that is used in the. I think they make the OLED that's used in the Switch.
This is a cost-cutting thing, I'm assuming, right? Like if they weren't to go with OLEDs.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, OLEDs are not that expensive, but LCDs are definitely even less expensive. I wonder if it's part of I don't know. I'm like, are they going to have a Switch Lite 2 right out of the box, and that gets LCDs because those are cheaper?
That would be wild.
It'd be wild. I don't know. It's like I'm trying to figure that. Honestly, the most likely answer is no OLED out of the gate for the new thing. It's just straight. It's like back to LCDs, and then they launch an OLED version later because it's Nintendo. And please don't do that. please don't do that. OLEDs
Grubb,
are affordable.
you just put it into the world. It may be that, like, is it a supply constraint as well for like OLEDs versus LCDs?
Again, but I think that OLEDs now seem to be in plentiful supply. I mean, I think that's what happened with Nintendo when they decided to make the OLED Switch model. Is they talked to Sharp or whoever it was. It might be Panasonic. I can't remember. But they're like, oh no, we have a ton of these laying around. Basically, we're gonna get you a really good price. But there's so many, they're ready to go. Do you want them? And Nintendo's like, finally, okay, yeah, I guess that'll be the thing that we use to upgrade. So maybe that's not enough, or maybe it's more difficult to get that up and running to ensure that they can meet demand. I guess that might be it. Mostly, I think you're right. Your first instinct was probably the best one. This is cost cutting. This is a way to ensure that a new piece of hardware that probably has a relatively expensive system on a chip, like where else can we save money? Because we do want to go all out with the hardware, or all out for Nintendo. But we're Nintendo, so we also want to make sure that we're making money on the hardware. Maybe that takes us back to LCDs, or maybe this is something else entirely, right? Maybe this is not Nintendo. I guess that's possible.
Sure. Especially with like the ROG Ally popping up and all these other portable PC handhelds popping up around
totally.
the gaming sphere. Grubb, what if this is me just picking nits here. Sharp is making LCD displays, right? Displays.
Okay.
What if we're getting 2 screens?
Yeah.
What if the bastards do it again? What if we get 2 screens?
I really like the DS and the 3DS. As long as any two screen device has full backward compatibility for the Switch, I'm fine with it. Nintendo, if that's what you need to do, if that's what gets you going, if that's what floats your boat, then I'm not going to stand in the way. Who am I to judge a fetish? But it's possible. That would be like, I guess that would be a philosophical idea, not have anything really to do with cutting cost or like worrying about cost. It's like, no, we want to have dual screens because we think that'll set us apart. I don't know. I don't know if Nintendo goes backwards like that, though. Do you think like they probably think they have a new, better idea than that? 3 screens. Maybe it's 3 screens.
They're weirdos. I don't trust them, but I trust them.
Exactly. That's a really good way of putting it, Jan. I think that's exactly how I feel, too. We'll see. Of course, all that reporting this past week, I think out of Nikkei, is that the next system is coming along. I keep hearing rumors that it's going to be announced this year. I think if that happens, it's at the very end of the fiscal year, like, or maybe in like December. But even then, I'm like, then does it launch in summer? No way. It probably launches late next year, like calendar year. And if that's the case, then I don't think they do like a year-long marketing campaign for it. I think they announce it a couple months before it comes out, just like the Switch. So we'll see. All right, moving along here. It looks like Dragon Age Dreadwolf won't be released before April 2024. This comes from Tom Ivan at VGC. Shout out to VGC for the news. Dragon Age Dreadwolf isn't currently scheduled for release before April 2024, according to publisher EA. On Tuesday, the company shared details of the announced games it has lined up for release during its current fiscal year, which ends on March 31st, 2024. Those include Super Mega Baseball, which is coming out in Q1 fiscal year 24, F1 23, Immortals of Avium, Madden 24, EA Sports Football Club, and NHL 24. EA also said it has 2 unannounced games releasing in fiscal year 24. One is an EA Sports title, and the other is a racing game. Last October, BioWare General Manager Gary McKay stated that Dragon Age Dreadwolf had reached alpha status and was playable from the opening scenes of the first mission to the very end. McKay went on to explain that the team was focused on the game's pacing, the various relationships that players will have with other characters, as well as a narrative cohesion. Dragon Age Dreadwolf gameplay leaked online in February, offering the first look at BioWare's RPG sequel in action. An anonymous Reddit user shared the early footage, claiming that it was captured by a playtester with access to an early alpha build of the game. We kind of remember we talked about that, and it was action heavy, and most people seemed pretty happy with the way it looked. Jan, this lines up with what I've heard for a while. I think the last time that we had an update out of EA, when I looked into it and asked about it, was like, yeah, it was always going to be Q4 of this year at the earliest, and that was very unlikely, even when we were hearing about that. And then the last time I talked to him, it was like, no, it's almost certainly not. It's not coming out this year. It's just not going to happen this year. And so, yeah, not too surprising. And if it's not coming out at the end of this year, the idea of then it just shifting like into Q1 of next year, it's like that's the kind of game where you can let it keep going into next holiday or something like that, or even make it a big summer release, like the big summer release. I suppose that's possible as well. This isn't too surprising, though, right? BioWare's got to get its next game right.
Yeah, I think especially since it's BioWare, they should take as much time as possible and not rush to meet whatever 2023 holiday trajectory they were trying to hit. Take your time. Be the big wolf of the summer, you know?
I agree. Yeah, totally. Someone in chat asked, Goose Munch asked, is this going to be a live service game? This was the game that was originally going to be BioWare trying to figure out a live service game out of Dragon Age, and then they reversed that decision, and they're like, no, this is going to be a single player game. That's it. And it's like, okay, good. Thank you for doing that at the very least. Yeah,
maybe they had a bunch of glowy purple bits. Bless you.
On helicopters?
On helicopters. And they were like, oh, snap. People don't want that? All right, back to the drawing board, guys.
Weirdly, I kind of do want that in Dragon Age Dreadwolf. That'd be kind of wild. That'd be pretty fun. I hope BioWare it does take their time, takes as much time as they need. They're looking around, they see what happens to all these other studios as well. And they also see what happens when a game does take forever and also has infinite resources like Tears of the Kingdom. But EA EA and BioWare can get talent. They can get people to work on these games. It's just give them the resources and give them the time. And hopefully when it comes out, it is something that keeps those fans happy. Mortal Kombat 1 details have seemingly leaked ahead of an imminent reveal. This comes from Tom Ivan at VGC. The first details about the next entry in the Mortal Kombat series have seemingly leaked via a highly reliable source. Data miner Bill Coon. There we go. Claims
Bilbo Baggins.
Bilbo Baggins claims that Mortal Kombat 1 will be released for PS5, Xbox Series X and S, PC, and Nintendo Switch. The standard version will cost $70 on PlayStation and Xbox consoles and $60 on Switch. A premium edition will be priced at $110, and a collector's version, with a K, will be $250. Warner and NetherRealm have been teasing plans to reveal the game imminently, with 2 recently released videos hinting at a series reboot. It's almost time, the official Combat Twitter account on Wednesday said on Wednesday in a message accompanied by the video below, in which the video shows a clock ticking 9, 10, 11, and then freaking out and then jumping from 11 to 1, bypassing 12. The implication there being clearly the last game was Mortal Kombat 11. They should be going to 12. And for some reason, it's going to go back to 1. And if you look at the story of Mortal Kombat series, a big reboot, and including some time traveling stuff and some weirdness, seems to be where the game was always going. So they're just continuing the story from there. How do you feel about that? Do you think that it's do you think it's going to be a straight wiping the slate clean reboot, or do you think it's a reboot, like a requel, like the Calvin verse in Star Trek, where the other universe still exists and now we're following this alternate timeline, and maybe those two timelines can interact with one another?
I don't know what I would want, because I feel like I grew really attached to how the Mortal Kombat crew wound up being handled after the kind of soft reboot-ish we got. I guess I wouldn't mind going back because there's going to be a lot of not a lot of folks, but a good chunk of new members of an audience checking out Mortal Kombat.
Definitely.
I guess let's go to we could go back to the beginning.
Yeah,
it's going to be a movie. We're going to redo the 90s movie, Grubb. That's what's happening here.
Well, listen, don't get me too excited.
I can't have them kill Kung Lao all over again. I can't handle that. Or Liu Kang. I don't even know which one Liu Kang. I can't have them zombify him again. I was so upset, Grubb.
I mean, it sounds like they're rebooting everything. They might do it all over again. We'll see. They probably will do things differently this time.
This time, Sub-Zero just turns like one of those air dusters upside down and then sprays that instead of actually shooting ice.
Okay, I like that. People in chat pointing out, hey, 9 was a reboot. And then Mike Minotti said that wasn't all that long ago. It came out 12 years ago. Also this is kind of the even though it's 12 years ago, this is still part of that same sort of cadence that they've had for this entire time of do 3 Mortal Kombats and then change things up in a big way. Do 3 Mortal Kombats and then change things up. And they've done 3, they've done 9, 10, 11. And that was like this big story. And now they probably are going to change things up in a big way. Here we are. I don't know if that's a big change to the gameplay, although that usually accompanies these like sort of resets that NetherRealm has done. We'll see if that's how it goes down this time. I've always just heard like weird rumblings about the game also going into space, and one of the videos they've released where they're teasing the announcement starts with a Big Bang style explosion, and I'm like, does that confirm anything? I have no idea, everybody. I have zero idea. We'll see what happens with this game. I kind of like the idea of it going back to the 90s in like a really hard way and playing on that 90s nostalgia, and then having to be weird. I want it to be much more like a Final Fantasy VII remake where there's clearly something more going on, and maybe the characters are aware that they're in a reboot.
The characters are starring in a movie remake of their lives.
That's a very good idea too. Or like maybe they're in like a Dark City style planet or a spaceship where it's like, oh, we're just living our lives, but actually it turns out that there's like aliens running them or something. I don't know. There's a lot of ideas that could work. Sci-fi trope we haven't seen a lot of lately. I think we're living in a simulation. Everyone is like in an animus style thing. Just I always like that.
Yeah, let's do it. Also, if they're gonna do this as a reboot by any means, please recast an actual voice actor for Sonya Blade. Get rid of Ronda Rousey.
Please just get her out of there. Please get her out of there. She doesn't even want to be there. It's so obvious she doesn't want to be there. Get her out of there.
Like like barring her very odd, weird views on life.
Sure.
Just very bad performance.
Yeah, she just straight up sucks. Yeah, she sucks in both ways, like in life and at being a voice actress / character model. All right, let's move on here to some good news from Capcom. Resident Evil 4 Remake caps off a record year for Capcom. This comes from Brendan Sinclair at gamesindustry.biz.
Capcom.
Yes, the Capsule Company today released its financial earnings report for the year ended March 31st, 2023, which saw the company set a new net sales record for the sixth consecutive year. That's that perpetual growth that companies want. Turns out Capcom's figured it out. As for the numbers, for the 12 months ended March 31st, 2023, net sales were $940 million, up 14% year over year. Net income was $273 million, up 13% year over year. For the highlights, the biggest new game of the year, of course, was Capcom was Monster Hunter Sunbreak and the Resident Evil 4 remake, which sold 5.45 million copies and 3.75 million copies, respectively. Resident Evil 4's sales figure only represent the initial launch of the game, as it was released with just 1 week remaining in Capcom's fiscal year. Capcom also reported strong catalog sales led by Monster Hunter Rise's 3.7 million copies. Overall, Capcom reported sales of 41.7 million copies of its games. That's up 28% year over year, and it's like that set a record. That's what they were trying to get. I think they said they were going to get to 40 million. They got to 41.7 million. The company's growth was driven by its digital distribution business on PC and console, as packaged goods sales decreased 40% year over year to 134 million, while mobile content revenue dipped 33% to 21 million. It turns out making those Capcom games bigger and better than ever and putting them on more platforms is really working for them. Sixth consecutive year of being bigger than the year before, Jan. Capcom is on a heater. It's on one of the best heaters that we've seen from a third-party publisher in a very long time.
Yeah, it's great to see. I hope they can continue with the momentum and keep putting stuff out. Resident Evil, man, who would have known that would be the workhorse? And also Monster Hunter. Like I think that's the wildest thing to see, because I remember in high school, early college, Monster Hunter being the thing for the sickos and the freaks out there on the internet. And it turns out we're all sickos and freaks.
Yes, and happily so, and will continue to be so. Looking ahead, Capcom expects its packaged goods sales to decrease further, while the mobile content recovers and shows slight growth in the current fiscal year. For the new fiscal year, Capcom projects net sales up 11% to 1.04 billion. So they are predicting once again to have more growth for a 7th year in a row. It also expects to sell 45 million games this year, led by major releases like Street Fighter 6 and Exo Primal. You know, the kids are out there they won't stop talking about Exo Primal. I'd go pick up the gimmick from school and all our friends, Exo Primal. It's going to be massive. Listen, I don't want to dunk on Exo Primal. Apparently people think it's pretty fun to play. I've not touched it myself.
I watched the Waypoint crew check it out a couple weeks back, and they seemed to be surprised at how much fun they were having. So maybe that'll be a multiplayer shooter game where it is fun playing together.
Yeah, and listen, coming out of Capcom, I'll believe it. Did I say Capcom Company or Capsule Company? I think Capsule Computers. Yes. That does sound right. I think that's actually what it is. All right. Microsoft's deal to buy Activision Blizzard will be approved by EU very soon, according to a report. This comes from Eddie McHugh at GameSpot.
Whose report?
Exactly. Antitrust regulators in the European Union will approve Microsoft's $69 billion acquisition of Activision Blizzard as soon as this coming Monday, May 15th, according to a report from Reuters. Reuters? Not Reuters. Yes, Reuters. The European Commission has said a decision would be delivered by May 22nd, but the announcement could come as soon as a week before then, Reuters said. An approval by the European Commission is no big surprise, given what Microsoft President Brad Smith has said. Regulators in the EU have been open to having more of a conversation about the deal compared to the UK. The last time we did have a story like this, Jan, like 2 days later, the UK was like, fuck off. We're not actually approving that. So like always take these like reports like, yeah, it's just coming from Reuters. Maybe it's a little bit more of a solid thing than the previous reports prior to what the UK, when the UK pulled the rug out from Microsoft. But we have to wait and see. These things actually do have to happen. This is not a guarantee. This is what one report's saying. Although it does seem like mostly the European Union was much more happy to line up with Microsoft than the UK ever was. Although, again, UK seemed to be moving in that direction as well before they said no. So, yeah, I guess we'll see. But even if the EU approves it, it's like, does that move it closer to being overall approved if the UK is still standing in the way? I don't know. Like, this continues to be an ongoing thing, Jan.
Yeah, this story is never going to leave us.
Nope.
The story's never going to leave us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Frankly, I don't know what I'll do without it. It's my handhold on reality at this point.
Right. This is, when you're trying to figure out whether or not you're in a dream and you look at your hands or something. It's like,
my constant.
oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay,
exactly.
Cool. This is my totem in my world of Inception.
It will never stop spinning. Absolutely. Redfall is Xbox Game Pass's second biggest launch of the year. This comes from Alex Hoffley at Game Reactor. Yeah, I want to hear what you think why, but let's read this real quick. A recent article from True Achievements has shown that Redfall hasn't struggled too much where its playtime is concerned, and it has even been the second biggest launch for Xbox Game Pass in 2023, despite the negative press around it. I think there's probably not a lot of other competition there, right? I mean, there's been other games on Game Pass, some good releases on there, some good day one releases, but that's easily one of the biggest ones. As we've covered quite a few times, Redfall certainly hasn't gotten off to the best start, but it seems that Arcane's reputation has still created a lot of curious players who want to see if the game is as disappointing as reviews have made it out to be. Is that what it is, Jen? Like, Game Pass still enables you to go and see for yourself, and is that a good sign that Game Pass is working the way Microsoft intends it to, even if the games are not?
This is an instance of like the morbid curiosity
maybe
is still getting people in the door, and it is still, even though Redfall may feel like a giant L, those L's are combining into a set of stairs and they're falling up them.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it also could be like, this is a bunch of people who are too busy to listen to us, and they aren't paying attention to the online stuff, and they're just like, I go to work all day, and then I have Game Pass at home, and there's a new game I've heard about, and it's on the front page of my Xbox. I'm going to try it out for myself. Maybe that.
Yeah, I mean, for that matter, how many like new games are coming out on Game Pass from Xbox right now?
Right now, from Xbox, yeah, right. This year we had like Age of Empires was one of them, and that was very popular. And then Hi-Fi Rush. It's like, but then there's been a lot of third-party ones, but those are smaller as well.
So, not that this feels disingenuous, but it's like, guys, it was huge, it was big compared to what? I mean, not a lot, to be fair, but it's still huge and big.
Yeah, I think there's definitely that as well. And what are the comps? They're just not. Honestly, if this game should have been the biggest launch on Game Pass this year, and it was only the second biggest, and then compared to what? Then not much.
Does Microsoft put out the data of like, I guess like gamer retention of like how long folks will stick with a game on Game Pass? I don't believe they do, right? Not
with specific games, not that I'm aware of. I think they definitely do, their monthly active users, but that's for Xbox Live in its entirety, which will also include stuff like Minecraft on mobile that has Xbox Live account stuff. So it's like not very useful for our purposes here. But we have no idea, really. I guess you could definitely always. They put out stuff like Xbox most played on Xbox Live and things like that, but single player games and even like multiplayer games, like co-op games, they'll pop it the first month and then they'll drop below the perennial favorites of Minecraft and Call of Duty and a few others and things like that. So that's also not very useful.
Oh, Minecraft, yeah, that was another release from them, I guess.
Yes, yeah, I guess that counts. All right, let's hit these last couple here. Guerrilla Games' Horizon franchise surpasses 32 million total sales. This comes from Chris Moyes at Destructoid. Developer salutes the Queen of Machines as Guerrilla Games has announced that PlayStation sequel Horizon Forbidden West has surpassed 8.4 million copies sold since its launch back in February 2022. This number, as noted in an anniversary post on PlayStation blog, brings the total sales of the fantasy franchise to an impressive 32.7 million units. The 32.7 million copies of Horizon Forbidden West in its 2017 predecessor, Horizon Zero Dawn, and VR release Horizon Call of the Mountain are defined as sell-through, as in actually sold to customers. Though Guerrilla adds that millions more players have enjoyed Aloy's adventures via subscription service. Basically, they're saying that number is people who actually bought the game, not just playing it through PlayStation Plus. Although Horizon Zero Dawn is a game that had been discounted to $10 repeatedly over the last several years, and probably got a lot of its sales over time from that. Either way, it is that one is like almost at like it's north of 20 million over time. That's huge for that game. Although I think that also probably includes pack-in games, and that was definitely like the big pack-in one there. I think that really helped Horizon. But yeah, that's 32 million game copies sold, regardless of how you're doing it. And across 2 or 3 games, 2.5 games, if the VR game is not like exactly what we're counting here, that's really impressive. There clearly is an audience for these games, right?
Yes, there's clearly an audience. To even warrant like the DLC, and then the rumblings of another Horizon game in the horizon. Maybe this is gonna be for me like the first Avatar movie where I did not click with it, did not mesh with it at all. But then I bought all into Avatar 2. So maybe I'm just waiting for Horizon to make my Avatar 2.
That's what it is. You're waiting for that, the space whales in Horizon.
I need space whales and people drinking coffee in mech suits.
Okay, man. Yeah, that is very good, isn't it? Man, I watched that movie 3 times. I texted you the other day when I was on my 3rd watch. Like, Jan, I think it's taken hold. It's taken over me. And I still want to watch it again. That's where I'm at with Avatar.
I was thinking about what to watch in the flight, and I'm like, maybe I can watch Avatar 2.
It's a good plane watch for sure. It absolutely is. All right, let's see here. They as part of that announcement, they were saying stuff like what you were saying. They confirmed they got another game coming, and they're going to keep making these Horizon games, which, no surprise at all. PlayStation Plus game catalog expands with 23 more games this month. This comes from Darren Bonthus at GameSpot. The next batch of games for the PlayStation Plus game catalog has been announced, and for subscribers to the extra and premium tiers of the service, there's a lot to look forward to. The big one here for people who are on both or either Plus Extra or Premium is Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart finally joining the subscription service. I love that game, Jan. That's a very good one to have on there. And it's not like it was, it was a pretty good seller. But there are like 30 odd million PlayStation 5s out there, and the game was sold like 1 million copies or something like that. People should go play this. I love it. I know a lot of people are like, I'm kind of over Ratchet. This is a great game. People should definitely check it out.
Great game.
Yeah. It also got a day one. It's PlayStation Plus and Extra and Premium are getting a day one from enhanced games. Humanity hitting PS4 and PS5. And then a bunch of third-party games like Watch Dogs Legion, Dishonored 2, Dishonored Death of the Outsider, Sakuna of Rice and Ruin, Tomb Raider Definitive Edition, Rise of the Tomb Raider 20 Years Celebration, Shadow of the Tomb Raider, Bus Simulator 21 Next Stop, The Evil Within 2, Wolfenstein Youngblood, Thymesia, Rain World, Lake, Conan Exiles, Rune Factory 4 Special, Story of Seasons, Friends of Mineral Town, and Soundfall. And then for premium subscribers only, the classic games are Siphon Filter Logan's Shadow, Blade Dancer Lineage of Light, Pursuit Force, and Ghostbusters the Video Game Remastered. That's a pretty good... These lists are getting better and better. Jan, this is the best one yet, I think.
Yes, the classics leave a little bit to be desired.
As always, yeah.
I don't remember there being this many Siphon Filter games.
They keep finding more Siphon Filter games. What is this? I think it's another PSP one as well, right? Maybe not.
I have no idea.
Yeah, who could possibly know? Yeah, I think it's a
Siphon
PSP
Filter has 47 games on the PSP.
It feels like it. It can't be real.
Marino, please tell me you're working me here.
I think he's working you. I think he's working you into a shoot. But I mean, it feels like that. We've got another one that is a PSP game, by the way, Logan's Shadow. So
why do folks really like?
I think at the time they thought it was like maybe it was a reliable series. It was probably like a reliable, because that's Bend, right? That's the Bubsy 3D people, Jan. And I think they got Siphon Filter and it was a hit, and they're like, we're gonna keep leaning into that. We can't go back to Bubsy. And I understand them. I understand that better than any other human possibly could.
How come Siphon Filter isn't like the mascot of Sony then? How come Gabe Logan is not out here because it seems like Gabe Logan has been secretly carrying Sony on his back. In the shadows, Gabe Logan is there lurking, making sure we're safe. He's protecting us.
In Logan's shadow, yeah. I don't know. It does seem weird how a lot of those games from the first couple eras of Sony are just like, screw those things. We don't care about those anymore. I was like, Colony Wars. I got a EGM from Video Game History Foundation from 1997, and the magazine's like, people one day talk about Colony Wars and GoldenEye in the same breath that we talk about Pac-Man and all this stuff, because they're just going to be classics that they talk about forever. I'm like, well, yeah, GoldenEye. Fucking no one cares about Colony Wars anymore. And it's like, not even Sony. And it's like that. I think the same kind of stuff happens with Siphon Filter, where that's the old shit. I'm Jim Ryan, and I want the new shit. It's like, I'm just going to blame Jim Ryan.
Oh, of course. Just like there's a giant hand statue somewhere in Elden Ring, I think there's a giant Gabe Logan statue somewhere in every single PlayStation office.
I hope so. I hope they still pay respect to the man that built PlayStation, Gabe Logan.
Yes.
All right. I have a poll that I'll bring up here in a second. While I'm getting that set up, Jan, why don't you tell people what's happening on giantbomb.com? What's up there from earlier this week, what's happening later, all that stuff.
So we did an in-person bombcast that is now up on the website, on the YouTube, and everywhere you get your podcasts. We also finally were able to put out Dan's Time visiting WrestleMania. He interviews a couple WWE superstars, talk about Steely Dan with MVP, and I suggest you stick around for the last interview with Grayson Waller. Grayson Waller and Dan have a very nice, polite conversation with each other. Very profesh. Today we'll have another episode. Blight Club returns with RoboMitch. RoboMitch is done installing the newest firmware.
Yeah.
And then later today, an episode of the voicemail dump truck.
I'm ready. I'm ready to go. That was
I'm ready.
It was fun to do the bombcast in person. It was a good time. It was a good show. I think everyone's going to really enjoy it. If you haven't listened yet, give that a listen. And then definitely check out that WrestleMania travelogue. There's a lot of fun stuff in there.
Yes. The Universal ones, I hit a little bit of a snag because forgot to do some things, but they're coming. Yeah. I swear. You're
gonna get your wet bets, everybody. You just chill. All right, just chill.
Yes. You'll be in on the new gimmick, the new thing.
All right. At some point in the past, I've asked who should play Johnny Cage in the next Mortal Kombat movie. Let me refresh this. Make sure that it's this guy. There we go. And 1.5K voted, and they chose The Miz, 46%. 40% said Carl Urban. Only 15% for our boy Jesse Ventura. But yeah, The Miz at 46%. I would love for The Miz. I would watch that movie 100% if The Miz played Johnny Cage, because I want to see him like work, because he's such a worker. It's like, yeah, he's gonna give it his all. I got to see that for myself. How do you feel about it, Jan?
Yeah, I kind of feel like it has to be The Miz. I know that Carl Urban is a more experienced actor, but I feel like The Miz was made for it.
Yes, I agree. All right, we got a new poll that we're going to put up. Jan, I'm going to put it in the GMM thing on Slack. It is, what is your hype level for Tears of the Kingdom? I think we can have on YouTube, how many options can we have? 4? We'll just say,
I think up to 5.
Okay, yes. We'll just do like a 5-star scale. What is your hype level for Tears of the Kingdom out of 5? 5 being the highest. And we'll have that up on our YouTube channel. You can vote for it there, and we'll talk about it on Game S Mornings tomorrow on Friday, which I think I should have Tam. I got to double check, make sure he can do it. I was going to have a buddy come in. We're going to have a friend in, but they're going to do it next week instead. So we'll get Tam back in. It'll be a good episode. Looking forward to it. It's been a fun week. I'm glad to get back in doing these Game S Mornings, though, Jan. It's like,
yes,
it very much feels like, okay, life is back to normal. I'm happy to talk about video game news with all our friends out there, and it just like gets me ready for the week, gets me ready for the day. So glad to be back on the normal schedule. Jan, thank you so much for talking with me about video games. You know I appreciate it.
Thank you, Grubb. Love a good Thursday.
Thank you all for watching. You're the best audience in gaming. Until next time, have a good one. Take care of yourself, and goodbye.